Your turbo isn't bulletproof, it's fragile, screaming at over 200,000 RPM under brutal heat. One wrong habit can wreck it in weeks. And here's the scary part. Most turbo failures don't come from racing or pushing hard. They come from everyday mistakes that most drivers don't even realize they're making. These mistakes quietly shred your turbo long before the engine light ever turns on. In this video, we're breaking down 9 overlooked habits that will destroy a turbocharged engine faster than anything else. Stick around, because mistake number 3 is one that nearly 70% of drivers do without thinking, and it's a turbo killer. Mistake number 1, gunning the engine cold. One of the biggest killers is accelerating immediately after a cold start. When your engine first fires up, the oil is still thick and hasn't reached the turbo's bearings yet. Slash Gear warns that if you accelerate right after startup, the turbo will start building boost before it's protected, leading to metal-on-metal contact and heat buildup. Remember, a turbocharger spins insanely fast up to 220,000 RPM and relies on a thin oil film for protection. Flooring it too soon forces that spinning assembly to run without proper lubrication. The result? Premature wear on bearings and shafts, and turbo damage almost from the first drive. Always give the engine a brief warm-up, idle 30 to 60 seconds, then drive gently until the oil is flowing freely. Treat your turbo like a sprinter. It needs time to warm up before going full speed. Number 2, skipping oil changes and using dirty oil. Your turbo lives on oil, so dirty oil is deadly. Even if you only drive a few miles, skipping oil changes allows grime to build up. Slash Gear explains that oil contamination is one of the most damaging things you can do to a turbo. The turbo's bearings spin at extreme speed with only a thin oil film for protection. If particles or sludge block those tiny oil passages, the bearings wear out fast. Dirty oil literally scorches or scores the shaft, leading to catastrophic failure down the road. To avoid this, follow strict oil service intervals and always use high-quality oil. Using cheap or old oil effectively starves the turbo of lubrication. And as Driving Line notes, lack of proper lubrication will kill the bearings in short order. Always clean, fresh oil is non-negotiable. A contaminated oil supply will destroy a turbocharger far quicker than you'd expect. Number 3, running on bad or low-octane fuel. Many modern turbo cars require high-octane gasoline, yet drivers sometimes cheap out or mix in homemade fuels. Using low-quality or wrong-octane fuel in a turbo engine is a recipe for disaster. Under boost, everything in the combustion chamber runs hotter. Inferior fuel can ignite too early, causing pinging that damages pistons, spark plugs, and even cylinder walls. This unchecked knock not only hurts the engine but also stresses the turbo. Slash Gear points out that most turbocharged cars are built to run on premium fuel 91 octane or higher. If you fill a turbo car with regular gas, the engine may retard timing cutting power, but that still doesn't fully protect the hardware. In other words, your turbo will suffer. Always use the manufacturer's recommended fuel. By paying extra for proper high-octane, knock-resistant gas, you'll avoid the violent detonation that can quickly wreck a turbo. Number 4, abrupt throttle inputs. Slamming or chopping the throttle violently can literally tear your turbo apart. This erratic driving causes turbo surge. When you suddenly lift off or floor the gas, the high-pressure air in the intake has nowhere to go and whips back through the compressor. Driving Line warns that surging is extremely hard on the compressor end of the turbo, and prolonged surging will eventually beat the thrust bearing to death. In plain terms, burst airflow and pressure spikes can flex and crack components. In serious cases of surge, even the compressor wheel can explode under the stress. This often happens if you've overboosted or improperly sized a turbo. It lives on the surge line. To avoid this mistake, be smooth with the throttle. Avoid sudden on-off pushes, especially at high RPM. If your car has a boost controller or blow-off valve, make sure it's working. A properly tuned wastegate or BOV system vents excess pressure and prevents that collapse of airflow. Keep it gently ramp up and lift off gradually so you never induce damaging compressor surge. If you're finding these turbo tips useful, hit like and subscribe. It will help us to create more content and help other beginner drivers to maintain their cars. Number 5. Letting dirt or debris enter the intake. A surprisingly common oversight is a neglected air filter or intake. Any foreign object sucked into the turbo will be shredded by the compressor blades. Driving Line reveals that intake debris accounts for 80% of all turbo failures. Even tiny particles hitting at high speed gouge the blades and housing. Essentially, a dirty air filter can't stop everything. Tiny grit gets through and can unbalance or break the rotor. Once the turbo's compressor or turbine wheels get nicked, efficiency plummets and vibration follows, and it's only a matter of time before catastrophic failure. The cure is simple. Always maintain your intake filter. Use a quality filter, clean or replace it regularly, and double-check any intake modifications or couplings. Preventing one stray pebble from entering saves you thousands in turbo repairs. Number 6. Overboosting or exceeding turbo specs. Pushing your turbo beyond its intended limits. Whether through aggressive tuning, removing wastegate restrictions, or bolting on bigger turbos without proper supporting mods can instantly shorten its life. Once the engine demands more air than the turbo was designed to deliver, overspeeding occurs. As Driving Line explains, this forces the turbo shaft to spin even faster than its safe speed, often until something snaps. The turbine wheel will fail first, sometimes explosively. Even stock setups can overspeed if you add nitrous or giant injectors without recalibration. Always keep boost pressures within factory or tune-approved limits. If you upgrade the turbo, rejet and tune the engine, and make sure a wastegate is always letting off excess pressure. In modern cars, running uncontrolled high boost or mismatched turbo hardware will kill the turbo fast. Number 7. Driving hard in extreme heat. Your turbo already generates tremendous heat. Pushing it for long periods, especially on a hot day or under heavy load, compounds that stress. SlashGear calls out extended driving in hot weather as a killer. On scorching days or long freeway pulls, the intake air and engine bay stay hot. The turbo heat soaks. It absorbs more heat than it can shed. This means less dense air, lower performance, and critically, oil that breaks down and thins out. Thin oil can't protect the turbo parts effectively. If the cooling system or intercooler is already under strain, the turbo's turbine housing can reach extreme temperatures and suffer cracks or warped blades. To avoid this, watch your temperatures. Use high-quality synthetic oil and keep coolant topped up. Under very hot or hard driving conditions, give your engine an easy pull or let-off boost before stopping. Remember, heat is a silent killer. Don't let your turbo cook itself to death. Number 8. Killing the engine. Immediately after a hard run. You've just finished a spirited highway run or a hard track lap. Now don't turn off the engine right away. This mistake lets all the heat and oil get trapped in the hot turbo. SlashGear warns that killing the engine stops the oil/coolant flow through the turbo. The turbo stays at peak temperature and the oil inside cokes. Those carbon deposits then clog the tiny oil return passages. Next startup, you'll have poor oil flow, and the turbo starts life with grit and heat soaked in. Over time, this oil coking and heat soak cycle will destroy the turbo's bearings and seals. The fix. After any hard driving, let the engine idle for 30 to 60 seconds before shutting off. This keeps oil and coolant circulating through the turbo, so it cools gradually. In very hot conditions, even a bit longer idling can save your turbo from a premature end. Number 9. Improper turbo modifications. Finally, don't ruin a perfectly good turbo by installing the wrong one or pushing it too far. Many enthusiasts strap on a bigger turbo for more power, but if the turbo doesn't match the engine's needs, it can spend its life in the danger zone. Driving Line gives an example of an engine fitted with a much larger compressor wheel. It ended up nearly always in the meat of the surge line, and it will never enjoy a lengthy service life. An oversized or incorrectly spec'd turbo constantly surges and overheats. If your turbocharger is heavily modified without proper supporting hardware, you're asking for trouble. Always choose a turbo sized for your engine's flow and horsepower. When in doubt, Follow tuning guidelines or professional advice. A mismatched turbo can kill itself before you even notice anything's wrong. Each of these mistakes targets the turbo's weak spots: lubrication, cooling, and proper airflow. By avoiding them, to warm up gently, use the right fluids and fuel, keep the intake clean, drive smoothly, and give your turbo time to cool, you'll drastically extend your turbo engine's life. At the end, these are just tips. We are not experts in cars, so don't take these tips as mechanical advice.